Sit in a hot box for 20 minutes, 4 times a week, and you'll slash your risk of heart disease, dodge dementia, live longer, and walk out feeling like you've done a full workout, all without moving a muscle. That's the promise of the sauna. But is it just Scandi folklore? Or is the laziest health hack in history legit? I've got Doctor Owen here with me to explain the science behind it.
Well, what do you think?
Well, my honest thoughts, the claim feels almost too good to be true. You're essentially telling me that sitting down, passively sweating is on par with exercise. That feels like the kind of claim people make before they try and sell you some sort of gimmicky gadget on the shopping channel. Break it down for us though, O. What do people claim saunas do, and how do those claims stack up with the science?
Okay, so firstly, surely nobody is still watching the shopping channel in 2026. Isn't that, essentially what TikTok and Instagram have become nowadays?
Oh, guilty as charged. I am a millennial. I suppose TikTok shop is the equivalent nowadays, right?
Yeah, fair enough. And secondly, I reckon that you are bang on the money for having that instinctive reflex of maybe criticism or wanting to dig a little deeper because something feels a little bit too good to be true, that sitting in a hot box is going to, deliver all these wonderful sounding outcomes. And obviously this is particularly true if the person hyping it up is the person selling it. Well, good news. No saunas for sale here. Not today, not ever. Instead, it's all about the scientific evidence, baby. That is, what is the scientific evidence currently available to support or refute the claims that sauna helps us in the following areas? 1, cardiovascular health. 2, longevity. 3, mental health. And 4, muscle recovery after training. Today, we're covering each of these 4 claims in turn and then giving you my ranking on a scale of snake oil to genuinely legit and highly backed by the science. So, Samuel, sit down, buckle up, and put your sauna hat on. Let's go. Part 1, sauna versus cardiovascular health. Okay, this is first because it's the most studied of the lot, which is to say there are more than 2 decent studies to look at here. The first is an observational or cohort study out of Finland, which sits at about half to 2/3 of the way up the hierarchy of evidence pyramid on the screen now. Way above stuff your influencer now recommends, since he got a shiny discount code, but far below a systematic review of multiple high-quality randomized control trials. In the study, they took 2,300 Finnish men, all between 42 and 60 years old, and tracked them through surveys, questionnaires, and access to their health records for 20 years. They tracked who developed heart disease, who died from heart disease, and who did neither, whilst also asking how frequently these men saunaed. And they found a strongly negative correlation between the frequency of sauna sessions and developing heart disease over time. How much by, I hear you say? Well, people who did a traditional Finnish sauna, dry and around 80 degrees Celsius, 4 to 7 times per week, had a 50 to 60% lower occurrence of death from heart disease than those that only did it once. And importantly, it wasn't because they were all dying in the sauna instead, with the only incidences of this occurring after a heavy drinking session. Within the study, the sessions averaged 79 degrees Celsius and typically lasted 15 to 20 minutes. Unfortunately, a side effect of the immense popularity of sauna in Finland is that there was no control group doing 0 saunas per week. It was 1, 2 to 3, or 4 to 7. Which means we don't have an answer to the most pertinent question really, which is, is sauna better than not sauna? Instead, we just have data that according to the outcomes of these 2,300 men in Finland, doing lots of sauna seems much preferable compared to doing little sauna regards your heart health.
You sure you don't have a discount code for me?
I do not. Or you could punch my name in on any sauna site you like. And if one does happen to give you a discount, then so be it. You've won the jackpot. You've punched the vending machine and something fell out. You got yourself a Snickers.
Promise I'll share it on the YouTube comments.
Yeah, smush it through the camera for me. But yeah, so it's worth noting that why this isn't really deemed the highest quality of evidence is it doesn't account for potential confounding factors or other variables that might influence the outcome. So fitness habits perhaps and socioeconomic status. But everyone's doing it in Finland. So if there was a place where perhaps the socioeconomic status doesn't come into things so much, it would be in Finland, where I think it's about 85% of homes have a sauna. So it's not just rich people at
That's
fancy
wild.
gyms. Yeah, true. So next question, perhaps on your lips, what's going on here? And that's a good question, and one to which we have only a very little couple of scraps of data to provide an answer, and some mechanistic theories wrapped around. So we've got one small study of 28 healthy females that showed that 3 rounds of 10 minutes of sauna caused sequential lowering of systolic blood pressure, which is a big driving force behind heart attacks and strokes. But this was a short-term one-off, 3 back-to-back sessions, which is therefore unable to prove long-term consistent changes in blood pressure. Also, we had a small study that showed that you could improve the endothelial health of your arteries through sauna, which is the interior lining of the blood vessels.
What does that mean? Sorry.
It means the very innermost lining of the tubes is healthier for using a sauna.
Amazing. That's good.
Yeah, it is good, really, isn't it? And we also know that heat or exposure to heat causes our heart rates to moderately rise into that zone 2 training cardio range. That's really blooming good for us.
Wow. So zone 2 training is like obviously a huge part of exercise. So my earlier point about, hey, does it sim or somewhat simulate an actual workout is kind of true. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I think we've got to view it as a stationary jog for our heart, but not our muscles, tendons, or just about anything else. Which, if your muscles, tendons are otherwise overloaded, might actually be a good thing to add in there. But if you're doing it at the expense of ever moving, then that's perhaps not a good thing.
I think I'll take that one home. A stationary jog for the heart, but no other muscle.
Don't take it home. Take it to your local sauna. Again, no discount codes. No matter where your local sauna is, give them my name and they will give you nothing, I can assure you. Or if they do, please let me know and I will also start using my name. So moving on, part 2, sauna in the pursuit of eternal life, or at least a little bit more life. How does sauna affect our longevity? Well, again, we find that same Finnish cohort study as one of very few pieces of reliable scientific data. And again, it found that participants doing 4 to 7 sauna sessions per week had a 50% reduction in death by any cause over the 20-year follow-up period than those only doing 1 session per week. Again, we've got potential confounding factors at play, like the socioeconomics, and we've got some maybe thoughts that something big's going on here. Why? Because this article was published in JAMA, or the Journal of the American Medical Association, and one of the people to write in and comment pointed out that actually, if this effect is true and replicable to the rest of us, it would mean that saunaing 4 to 7 times a week is as effective in reducing mortality as the combination of the 2 heavy hitters of managing cholesterol with lipid-lowering medicines like statins and managing people's blood pressure with antihypertensive medicines combined. So that's the scale of what's being claimed in this one study. So we'd like a bunch more really to back it up. Maybe we'll get it. That was published in 2015. So I'm not sure that we will. In 2018, another Finnish cohort study, this time looking at both men and women, 1,688 of them, who were quite a bit older, 53 to 74 at the start, tracked them for 15 years, and they found that across this time, the reduction in death by all causes was 18% for those doing the high-intensity sauna regimes over those doing 1. Again, because it's Finland, the lowest group, the comparator group, was still doing a sauna session every week, which is a bit infuriating, really.
I mean, to be fair, though, if you can still deduct from 1 compared to how many was it? 4? How many was
4 to 7,
was the higher group? 4 to 7. Okay, so 1. I mean, to be fair, to show a 20% reduction in deaths at all causes, 18% reduction, it's still significant, right? That's pretty wild. Yeah, okay. I'm going to find a sauna.
For sure, it's really exciting, isn't it, basically? And we'd love to get some, randomized control trials on top, but I do think there's just a massive funding problem, and randomized controlled trials essentially don't work for longevity studies because you'd have to keep
Ooh,
people in
yeah.
a simulated experimental environment for decades,
Mm,
and you need enough people that some of them are going to die of natural causes and some of them aren't. So that's
mhm.
just a longevity wide problem, really. And then it's quite expensive to run. Though it's going to price a lot of people out because you need access to a sauna and a sham sauna, like a hotish box, a warmish box to put the comparison group in. And yeah, who's going to fund it? Because you can sell saunas without doing the RCTs. You can't sell drugs without doing the RCTs. So these things are expensive to run.
Yeah, geez, okay. And actually, to be fair, your point there as well uh, was about 50 to 70-year-olds, right? Originally.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to follow somebody from our age, that's another 23 years.
And by the time you've got some usable data, the people that were originally interested when the study started, they've either done it or they've not.
And those in the control side are like, for God's sake, why was I put on this side? Like, everyone on
Yeah.
the other side is living longer.
Goddamn
Yeah,
warmish
okay.
box. Yeah. Yeah. Or they're dead,
Yeah,
in which case they're not
true.
complaining. Yeah. Anyway. Yes. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the next question that I imagine you asking is, well, what's going on here? Were you about to ask that? Oh, yeah, you were. Well, it probably has a lot to do with the cardiovascular thing that we've just spoken about, because this is such a massive cause of death nowadays. Other factors would be somewhat speculative, but there is already a lot of speculation filling this particular data void. So let's not add to it further, but instead move on to part 3, sauna versus your mental health. Okay, so here I could only find one trial looking at traditional sauna and its effect on mental health. It was a randomized control trial, but a pretty small one, published in 2016. It took 30 medically healthy adults with a diagnosis of major depressive disorder and not taking any medicines for it. Half of them did a single sauna session. Half of them did a sham sauna session that simulated the entire experience, time, setting, ambience, except for the temperature not getting so high. And they followed up both groups with a depression symptom severity questionnaire across 6 weeks and found that that single sauna session had a statistically significant reduction in depressive symptoms across that time.
Wow, that's so cool. Um, just a few degrees hotter. Is that the only difference between the two?
Yeah, well, I think it was quite a lot hotter. I think one was 80 degrees and the other one was nothing near what you would get in a sauna. But yeah, and this is a single session, 6 weeks, not that many people, but pretty promising, pretty exciting, eh?
There really is, and that's just by turning up the temperature. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
And yeah, next question might be how. To be honest, I don't know. I haven't seen anything really compelling about what it is. We do know that there's the existence of these proteins in the body called heat shock proteins. And when we get very hot, they come out to play, but we don't really fully understand what their effect is in the body, particularly in the brain, where, people aren't going in and out of saunas with lumbar puncture taps. So we can just tap the fluid after they've had their sauna and see what's changed. Cool. So next part 4, sauna versus muscle recovery. This one's, least till last because, well, the evidence here is even smaller. Again, looking just at the traditional sauna, we could maybe do a different episode on infrared sauna, but I do think that's almost like comparing hot tubs and baths. They're both similar, but quite different in terms of the degree of heat that you're getting and the way that you're being heated, I suppose. Anyway, traditional sauna and muscle recovery. Here, the evidence is really small, but is suggestive of potentially some benefit. Specifically, all we've got to look at is one small randomized controlled trial, at least that's all I've found, published in 2015 in the Asian Journal of Sports Medicine. It took 28 healthy young adults, average age around 21, and split them in half. Not the adults, but the group. And half of them went and did sauna before wrist extensor eccentric work to fatigue their wrist extensor muscles. And the other half skipped the sauna. So doing lots of that.
Okay. Flat
You
flat
seeing
wrist,
that?
up wrist, flat wrist, up wrist. Okay.
Yeah, with
I tried not
resistance.
to make any jokes.
And I'm sure that's thrilling for anyone listening along on Spotify. Anyway, so the group was split in half. And yeah, they went and did this wrist extensor fatiguing work. And then the two groups, those that saunaed and those that didn't, were tested for range of motion, pain-free wrist grip strength, and wrist extension strength. And they found that basically the range of motion was preserved either way, didn't really make a difference. But when it came to doing these pain-free strength tests, immediately after the workout and every day thereafter, up to 7 days, particularly immediately after and for the first 3 or 4 days, the sauna group showed a much reduced drop-off in pain-free grip strength and wrist extension strength. So quite interesting, very limited. And I do wonder really who is practicing sauna before workouts as part of the protocol, and therefore how applicable it might be or not to people listening circumstances.
Probably only the finish. Okay, so for each of those 4, can we run through whether you think they are snake oil, overhyped but harmless, solid but oversold, or genuinely legit?
Yeah, easy. So sauna versus cardiovascular health. This one does seem like it is genuinely legit. All of the evidence, though it is limited and sort of piecemeal, all points in that direction. There's nothing that really goes against it. And the mechanisms of what sauna does to the body all suggest that it's a good thing there. So long as you're healthy enough to undertake a sauna, basically. If you're healthy enough to raise your heart rate up to 130, 140 beats, as you might get to in an 80 degrees Celsius sauna, then it seems like it's good for your heart. Part 2, sauna and longevity. So again, I've got to say that this one seems pretty genuine and legit, though these observational studies don't actually tell you that these people are going to live a really long time. They just tell you that they haven't died so frequently during the follow-up. But it does seem really good. There are some potential confounders. We can't really get around that. We can't really do the randomized control trials. The links are down below to the studies if you want to look at. They've actually tried to account for, or at least display, like who's smoking, how much are people drinking, how much are people earning, those sorts of things. And actually, surprisingly, in the 2018 study, those that did the best, those that were saunaing 4 to 7 times per week, were drinking considerably more than those that were saunaing once per week.
Nice. Tell me about mental health.
Yeah, so sauna versus mental health, we do only have, or I could only find, one small short-term study looking at a single bout of sauna as therapy, and found it to be effective. Whether it is in your instance, whether it is repeatedly, I'm not sure, but that's reason for optimism and excitement and consideration if sauna is available and easy for you to integrate into your life.
Did you say it's not enough evidence per se to really make comments?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a difficult one. It doesn't seem overhyped but harmless, because actually I don't think that many people are hyping it to that end. Is it solid but oversold? I don't think that we can say that it's solid off of a single bout being studied, and yet those findings do suggest there's something good in there.
Okay. Inconclusive, maybe something good. Nice. Okay. And then the 4th one, muscle recovery after training.
So I think this one's definitely got to go in the inconclusive, but might be something to it camp, because the study was quite niche, and I think the protocol doesn't follow the way that most people would be saunaing, and pain-free grip strength is perhaps only part of measuring what muscle recovery is going on. There are no, or I didn't find any sauna versus hypertrophy studies, which would be of interest to a lot of people.
What's hypertrophy?
Hypertrophy, or muscle growth, is the growth of size of muscle cells. And I guess that's, a lot of what people are doing training for and needing to try and soothe their muscles and help them recover faster, isn't it? So, just as we thought that icing was the bee's knees for a long time, and have now come to use it more cautiously and more infrequently, perhaps, there's stones that need unturned, basically.
Some bloody hot stones. Nice. All right. Have you got a prescription for me then?
Yeah, honestly, like if it's available to you and accessible, and you think you can get on board with the program of sitting in a hot box and relaxing, or maybe, taking some of the boys in there and having a chin wag, then do it. There are so few specific conditions that would make a sauna potentially dangerous. Obviously, if you have one, don't do it whilst you've got one of those. But for most of us, like, it does seem like the upside pretty broadly outweighs the downside, unless you've been on a big bender before.
Nice. All right. In that case, then, that's the pod. Thanks for joining us on the Doctor Owen Show.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you again soon, hopefully.
Enjoy the sauna.